Hey everybody, this is Chris McCabe. I'm here with Jason of AZ Seller Kit. I always want to say AMZ Seller Kit, so apologies for that. AZ Seller Kit, which by the way, recent sponsor of our Seller Velocity Conference. Thanks again for that support. That feels like a million years ago. What feels
really
much, it was only 2 months ago, by the way.
Crazy. Yeah.
What feels much more current is Prime Day, which is what we're talking about now. Prime Day is, by the time you hear this, upon us. And really, I just kind of wanted to work off of a brief conversation we had about pricing the other day. And then we can just get into other Prime Day trends that you observe with all the many wonderful people you talk to and trends that you observe. So why don't you kick this off by taking us into the pricing material that you wanted to make sure people knew or thought about?
Exactly. So one of the main things that I don't think people necessarily realize is that on Prime Day, Amazon will change the search bar, sometimes in mobile, sometimes on desktop, very often on both. So when the customer logs in, it's pre-filtered to deals only. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have a deal running, then you basically are not showing up in search for any of your items unless they take the filter off. And we kind of all know how customers are. They don't even necessarily know what's happening.
Yeah.
So Amazon also has made it a little bit more challenging to do a Prime exclusive discount. So there's Prime exclusive discounts that you can do specifically for just the 2-day Prime Day period. Mm-hmm. That will get you the badge and that will allow you to show up in search. Amazon uses this reference price, and they make sure that you're 20% below the reference price. We used to be able to, and many sellers used to actually be able to raise their retail price and then do a discount off of that, which effectively was no discount. And then you would be able to get the badge. And it was like a nice little hack that people were doing for a long time. And Amazon, it's almost 2 years now, or this is almost like the third event where they closed that loophole. And what we actually have been seeing since they closed that loophole, although Prime Day is less profitable than it used to be when you can kind of sell everything at the same retail and kind of use that hack. Sales are actually much better than they were because now it's much easier for the customers to identify real deals, and everything that's on Amazon is now a discount off of that reference price. So
yeah, I've been talking to a lot of people lately, not to interrupt, but just how Prime Day is a different type of shopping day. Buyers are moving faster, making faster decisions, searching differently. And I don't think about that stuff all the time the way you might, but it made me realize that the entire experience with content, detail pages, images, whatever, is a little bit different on Prime Day. I know I'm a little late. I'm a little late to that party, but it's like I'm aware of these things. No. But now I kind of understand how A+ content means so much more. And even beyond that, confusion with a product means that much more, like not understanding the language on a detail page. If they're like, wait, what is this? Is this what I want? Right?
Yeah. No, and one of the things that's actually also really important to note is that the items that are more expensive tend to do 10 to 15 times better. Yeah. Because there's a longer consideration period, so they're actually waiting for Prime Day to show up.
Yeah.
And you'll see an item that's $150 or $200 will have a tremendous increase in sales, where if you're discounting an item that's $20 and you drop it to $18, you'll sell twice as much on Prime Day. Yeah. So to understand the value of Prime Day when you have expensive items is definitely very important. And one of the hacks that we've been doing is, if we have a variation listing, we make sure to discount one of the variations, and we won't necessarily discount all of them. Yeah. We don't have the margin to discount every item now, the true 20%, but we're making sure that we have at least one item within the variation show up, on that deal page. They click through, they get to your item, and then you can maybe throw a 5% coupon on, then you don't have to be at that 20% deal, because the customer doesn't understand that badge represents, this 20% number. So you bring them to your page, and now you can at least, give the customer something, something else to buy that they may like, that is at a healthier margin. So that's kind of been our strategy.
Right. Do you have a lot of conversations with people, which I'm sure you do, but what types of conversations do you have with people who are trying to do like last minute listing optimizations, or, they see what I've heard people talking about is they see their competitor do something like in June or a couple weeks before Prime Day, and they're trying to copy it because it looks like it's working to get more traffic. Do you get into all that, or do you kind of caution them like last minute changes, A, may not have the sales impact you expect, and B, if you do it wrong, you might get the listing taken down, things like that.
More the second, and that really dovetails into a little bit what we were talking about before.
Yep.
As once we get to within a week before Prime Day, we really push to not touch a listing. Because if you decide that you want to make a big flat file update for whatever reason, anytime you're going to do a big flat file update, things can get broken, things can get flagged for no reason. It seems to just raise some sort of a flag in Amazon system to look because something's changing, and you do not want Amazon looking at your listings if you don't have to. Yeah. So we'll make changes after Prime Day. But, before Prime Day is not the time to test Amazon's AI and to test what they decide to flag. They tend to, what we're seeing is they start doing sweeps on just catalogs and just looking for things that have been untouched forever. And all of a sudden, they'll make a decision that the word girls is in a listing and requires testing. And you have testing, but they're going to take it down until you prove that you do. And if that process takes 2 days, and those 2 days happen to be around Prime Day, and then you can't get a rep, so there's just a lot of craziness that starts to happen before. And, it's just something that it's very, very challenging when you start to see suppression show up. And we're dealing with it, and we're almost happy that a lot of it happened a week before Prime Day and not the day before Prime Day.
Right, of course.
Because we've been able to address it. But, I'm going to say sometimes it feels like more luck than brains that you manage to get the suppression removed, because there are, we'll have 10 listings go down. We get 9 of them up within, 6 hours, and the last one might take 2 days. And we're same process, it's just, it's luck of the draw. So
complete random.
So touching your listings the week before Prime Day, not a good idea.
Especially in the age of their kind of runaway automation, whatever AI they're experimenting with. Sometimes even a minor change that people think is just way away from the core info in the listing, it triggers a review, or all of a sudden you're in the restricted products category of violations, and you're like, I barely did anything. I've done this before. I think part of the problem is people do it at other times where, for whatever reason, the listing doesn't get flagged, the automation doesn't trigger. It's hard to speak to that. But because they did it one other time, some other part of the year, and nothing happened, they assume they can do it now.
Yeah, like,
and you
why
shouldn't
would you
make
not?
that assumption.
You do it every week. Like we do we do the same thing all the time, but they set up a flare, and they do it. They do it before Prime Day. They do it before the October big deals Prime Day. They do it before Black Friday. At this point, it's very consistent that you see they start to just hack away at your accounts, in the weeks leading up to these events. So, and very, very hesitant to change things, especially if you have large catalogs, to make bulk changes. Not a good time.
And for everyone who's wondering, why now? Well, it's peak sales period. Why are you doing? Well, because the damage is bigger. If you do something that's misrepresenting a product, violating intellectual property, violating Amazon guidelines or policies, creating damage, well, the damage is bigger during Prime Day because there's more orders and there's more potential for complaints, A to Z claims, messaging, whatever. So Amazon's doing it to protect buyers, ostensibly, but also to protect themselves because it makes a lot more work for them. So in our seller brains, everyone's thinking like, this is the worst time to be tweaking these things. But from their perspective, it's the best time. Not the best time because they're great at doing last minute tweaks. We all know they're not. A lot of Amazonians know they're not, to the extent that they're willing to admit it. But that is why. It's because the damage is potentially greater. The same as in Q4, late November, something goes wrong. You have to cancel a bunch of orders because of some sort of pricing misfire or whatever. Well, you're canceling more orders in late November than you would in late May, for example.
Yeah. No, and I think there's a lot of animosity from sellers, towards Amazon for this kind of behavior.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I mean, I hear both sides of it, but, in their minds, the customer is, always right. And
Mhm.
if they take down your listing, there's another 10 guys that are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's mean, but they just, shoot first, ask questions later, because it's not like they just, took down everyone who's selling, whatever this plastic bag is or whatever this item is.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
know that the customer is going to still be able to get what they want.
Yeah.
And that ultimately is why they're able to just so haphazardly shut sellers down, because there's always another person that's there selling the same type of an item.
And right now, I mean, there are certain cyclical hot suspension types. Last 6 weeks, I think going back into, May when I saw you, is ASIN variation misuse and abuse,
Oh yeah.
which has been 2 solid months of consistent account suspensions. Some people, they didn't suspend them, they separated illicitly created variations. And I think there are some people out there waiting to merge them like right before Prime Day. And this falls into the same bucket as don't make changes right before Prime Day
Yeah, no, it's
because,
it's very challenging, because when they
yeah,
break up the variation, sometimes they're literally destroying the business model.
yeah,
Like we have a clothing account where they decide to separate the entire variation listing,
yep,
and you have the small, medium, large, and extra large on 4 different pages,
mm-hmm,
because they created some strange variation abuse. And until you can try and get it put back together, it's literally like you may as well be suspended.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's really that the variation abuse problem has been rampant, and it's like it started on like one day in like March. All of a
yeah,
sudden,
April, I
they went
think, yeah,
exactly something like that. They
yeah.
started going after all of that stuff. So
And they're serious about it. I mean, we do hear from a lot of sellers who are like, look at all my competitors. They're still doing it. Why can't I do it? These are live on the site. And it's like, okay,
that's
come back
amazing.
tomorrow because half of those people could be gone.
Yeah, no, that's just
Or go
never.
ahead and
Yeah.
report them. If they're illicitly creating
No, it
variations, go ahead
never
and
works
report them.
that way. It
Yeah.
never works that if someone else
Yeah.
is doing something that's against terms of service, that you're never going to be able to tell Amazon that they're doing it against terms of
I
service. So
know.
I want to be
To
able to do it
justify
as
your
well.
doing it.
It's
Yeah.
just never going to work.
It's tempting to say, but it doesn't get you anywhere.
Exactly.
Any last tips or just words of advice for people? How about last minute advice for people just on the cusp of Prime Day?
Probably the most important thing is, and it may be tough because it's 3 o'clock in the morning for some people when Prime Day starts, but they tend to suppress a lot of deals that you may have run that were approved. Now
Yeah,
it shows live for whatever reason, inevitably at the minute it goes live, a whole nother batch of stuff gets suppressed.
hmm,
Sometimes it could be you need to adjust your price by 2 cents,
yep,
and for whatever reason, but you need to have somebody that's available that can make easy decisions. That's available. Otherwise, you're going to miss the first 6-7 hours of Prime Day
yeah,
on potentially one of your best items. But
yeah,
don't assume that just because it was approved on July 12th that it's going to be approved on Prime Day. And it doesn't make
okay,
any sense, but it's always a whole new list of suppressions that show up. You got to get the firing squad out. You got to
yeah,
figure
yeah,
out what you
yeah.
want to fix and not fix. But we were surprised 2.5 years ago, whenever the last one happened. At
Hmm.
this point, it's just standard operating procedure. Have your team ready, have the rules in place. This is what they're allowed to do without asking. This is what they have to ask, and just set it up so that these things can be addressed.
Perfect ending. Words to
Mhm.
live by, everybody. So, any questions on that? Best place to reach you is.
Uh, you can go to our website, azsellerkit.com. There's a little chat bot that'll, land on my desk, or you can always reach me at jason@mmxdist.com.
Alrighty. Well, thanks for joining us again today. We're going to have quick conversations like this with other experts around Prime Day and heading into Q4 too. So hopefully we can have you back in a couple of months and talk about the end of the year.
Awesome. Always fun.
Good
Cool. Thank
talking
you,
to you.
Chris.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.